The average worker sits at their desk for 8 hours a day, but is only actually focused on their work for 3 hours a day. Andrew Barnes did a really interesting experiment with his company. He said, well, if this is true of my workers, if we moved to a 4-day week, but we had exactly the same pay, so we went from 5 days a week to 4 days a week, if that increased the amount they paid attention just 45 minutes a day, then it would have paid for itself, the experiment, right? Yeah. We'd be producing as much in 4 days as 5. So he organised a phone call with his whole company, and he announces, good news, everyone, we're going to move from 5 days a week to 4 days a week. You don't have to, I'm going to pay you exactly the same. We're going to try it for 3 months and see what happens. His head of HR literally fell over, right? And people were like, is this some kind of trick? What's going on here? And what they found was productivity, attention at work went up by 30%. They achieved more in 4 days than they had in 5, wow. Right? Because stress went down, social media use went down. One of the things people spent more of their time doing was sleeping more. I'm sure we'll talk about that. Absolutely essential for attention. And so they've now moved to, this is now permanent. They now permanently work 4 days a week. And in a way, I remember when I first learned about that and I interviewed Andrew and all these people, thinking, that feels almost too good to be true. Then I went to Stanford to interview Professor Jeffrey Pfeffer, who's an expert on organizational behavior. And he said to me, look, if you want to understand why that worked, it's kind of obvious. Ask any sports fan, do you want your team to go onto the pitch absolutely exhausted? No. You want your team to go onto the pitch really well rested, really up for the game. Why would it be different for everything else, right? And and of course, there's now been lots of experiments in a 4-day week, and they pretty consistently find the same thing. Microsoft in Japan went to a 4-day week; their productivity went up by 40%. Toyota in Gothenburg in Sweden went from their engineers having an 8-hour day to a 6-hour day, and they produced 125% more than they had before.